Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Elivaras, and welcome back to another episode of Strategical Analysis, where we go in-depth on comps, tactics, strats, etc., everything of the like in a 1v1 multiplayer battle. In this episode, we have EQ Sassy LJ leading the Greenskins versus Arcan the Black's Vampire Counts. So, leading each force, we have the Orc Warboss on a Wyvern with a Potion of Toughness, and on the other side, we have, somewhere, Manfred von Karstein on a Nightmare with Fate of Buna, and he's got Invocation of Nehek and Raise Dead, of course. We can see from the Greenskin side, 2 units of Orc Boarboy Biggins in the back. To Rusty Heirs, 4 units of Goblin Archers. We've got Nasty Skulkers, Savage Orc Biggins, Black Orcs, 8-Peak Loonies, Unbreakable, Armor Piercing, and we do have Savage Orcs over here as well, and we've got Mogreb's Mangy Marauders, which are very fast, armor piercing, nothing's going to be able to catch it from the Vampire Count side. So a very interesting Greenskin comp, obviously bringing a lot of ranged pressure here, but the problem is they don't have much melee, especially against a melee-heavy faction such as Vampire Counts. This could be a huge problem, especially seeing that the Vampire Counts did bring Cairn Wraiths, right? Greenskins don't have much magic damage, but if they don't have numbers, it's also going to be very hard to kill Cairn Wraiths, because it's either magic damage, or you surround them and just get a whole ton of units onto the Cairn Wraiths so that they take a lot of damage just because they're taking hits, right? But they don't have much melee force here, so we'll have to see if they can overpower the Vampire Count's frontline, which it doesn't look like they will. Over on the Vampire Count side, as I said, we've got Manfred. We have a Necromancer with no spells. We've got a Corpse Heart with an Unholy Lodestone. We've got a Mortis Engine, unit of Cryptors, the Sternsman, 2 units of Cairn Wraiths, 2 units of Graveguard, 2 units of Skeleton Spearmen, and Blood Knights in the back. So let's hop into this match here. We can see Manfred von Karstein hopping forward, and what he's going to be doing is casting Fate of Buna on the Black Orcs. A decent pick, as the Black Orcs is essentially the only actual decent unit on the Greenskin side that's going to be holding a line. And we'll see in a second just how much damage Fate of Buna does. If we go into double speed here, we can see it takes them under half health, which is really good for a unit of Black Orcs. And as a result, the Greenskins are going to have an even harder time holding their already weak front line. Now, a huge mistake here on the Vampire Count side, they charge their Mortis Engine in first. When you see 4 units of Goblin Archers, Mogreb's Mangy Marauders, and then later this unit of Rusty Heirs, huge mistake. Like, well, don't charge your valuable healing unit in the front, who's very large, going to be taking tons of damage, because as you can see here, it just got absolutely decimated, and it's going to be going down right about now. There it goes, exploding in a puff of magical smoke, takes way more damage than is necessary, and gets absolutely obliterated. Now we can see the Greenskin left flank is already looking atrocious. Black Orcs obviously took a lot of damage from Fate of Buna, and now the Vampire Counts players smartly decided to bring their Crypt Horrors in for the Armor Piercing and Cairn Wraiths for other Armor Piercing to finish off the already weak Black Orcs. Now we do see Blood Knights kind of charging into the fray after the Orc Warboss, which is, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a really good choice, right? Get them around the flank. They're getting blocked by a lot of their own units, and hardly any of them will actually get a charge off into the Orc Warboss. We do see Manfred also charging forward here. And Manfred's going to get a bit over-aggressive, more over-aggressive than he needs to be. He does spawn zombies to try and keep the Orc Warboss from getting away, right? Flying units need a clear takeoff path before they can escape. Manfred does end up charging all the way through and does a decent amount of damage, but this is a bit of a mistake. Arcan the Black gets a little too over-aggressive, and now a unit of Orc Boarboy Biggins is just going to be able to hop right onto him, as he is completely isolated here. Nothing to help him. But in this time, the left flank of the Greenskins have collapsed, right? They only had 2 units. One of them was under half the Black Orcs. Get decimated by Cryptors and the like. Now that Cryptor unit got duly taken care of after they got shots poured into them, like arrows blotting out the sun number of shots here. But Manfred gets surrounded again. He's still surrounded. He doesn't look like Arcan the Black was trying to get Manfred out, and he's just kind of standing there fighting, which is terrible because he's not going to be able to do jack all in this engagement, surrounded by anti-large Orc Boarboy Biggins and Arcan the Black. It looks like he did cast another Fate of Buna. decent idea, not necessarily needed, I would say, especially as that we see the Blood Knights coming in. But it does ensure that they will be running from the field and probably not returning. We can see Azag trying to buff up the leadership of these Goblin Archers so they can return to the fight. But here we can see Manfred. Again, right, what he should be doing now is he's at low health. He finally gets, he finally got some reinforcements around him. But he's still kind of in the open, right? Like, what he should be doing is pulling him back, right? You see Azag over here. You see Azag making his way over to him. You see Manfred on very low health. Ark in the Black's got to be thinking, like, I see this big wyvern charging towards my lord who is at very low health. I should be taking this lord into the, far away so he can't get destroyed by the wyvern. But sadly, he just lets his lord kind of derp around, and now Orc Warboy Biggin's going to charge in. Azag's going to pull through with his large mass, and they're just going to absolutely decimate Manfred. And now we're going to see Goblin Archers are going to start pouring shots into Manfred, and he's not going to be lasting very long. We can see his health dropping very rapidly here. And it looks like he is going to bite the dust, and Manfred does indeed fall. But again, the Greenskin frontline definitely crumbling here. Not in the Greenskins' favor this matchup any longer. Karen Race getting into the Rusty Errors. We do have Savage Orcs coming to back them up, and now, wisely, we do see EQ Sassy LJ going after the corpse cart, not the black coach. Unfortunately, though, Azag is definitely surrounded by Blood Knights and Karen Race and is going to have to pull through. Definitely don't want to just be sat there hitting the corpse cart while being surrounded by enemy forces. Now, what Azag might be able to do here, right, is just come in and help this frontline engagement, because all of these units are relatively weak. Like, we got 2 units of low health Graveguard. We've got a Necromancer here. What Azag could do is come in the back here, kill the Necromancer, and perhaps get some charge into the Skeleton Spearmen and ensure that his troops do not rout. Get that leadership buffs going, as they will end up winning their engagement. But now the Savage Orc Biggins do end up routing. Now, one of the biggest problems for the Greenskins here is going to be the Stearnsmen. Right, they've only got a few armor-piercing units left. They got the Rusty Airs, which is routed, and they got Mogreb's Mangy Marauders, which are firing into the Stearnsmen. Actually, I don't know what they're firing at. It looks like they're firing at the Blood Knights, which is a little bit of a mistake here, just because Azag is fighting the few Blood Knights there. Not Azag, Orc Warboss is fighting the few Blood Knights that are left. And if Mogreb's Mangy Marauders are firing at those same Blood Knights, they might get hit in the crossfire. As we can see, Orc Warboss is getting pegged by a whole ton of arrows, as Goblin Archers are firing at these Blood Knights that are right next to the Orc Warboss. I apologize if I keep mixing up Orc Warboss and Azag. I have no idea why, but I just keep doing it. I do apologize for the lag. I've had to do multiple takes because of various issues, and it wasn't this laggy before. I don't recall exactly why. But now we see, okay, Corpse Cart with Unholy Lodestone. Let's see if we can get this lag gone here, because this is ridiculous for just a small battle. Let me just check my power cord here, make sure I'm not getting deconnected or anything, because that could lead to unexpected lag. But I don't know, like, this is so laggy. Okay, looks like it's starting to clear up here. Now we see the Orc Warboss charging back in. We've got Goblin Archers, Mogreb's Mangy Marauders firing into the Corpse Cart with the Unholy Lodestone, trying to bring that down. Although, as I mentioned before, lack of a Greenskin frontline, they do get routed. They get completely overwhelmed here. And now all he's got left really is ranged units. Mogreb's Mangy Marauders, he's got some, Savage Orcs, but other than that, he's essentially got nothing. And that's terrible news, because he's going to have nothing to hold back the hordes of vampires, or not vampires, but of undead that are pouring forward. But now, Orc Warboss hops onto the Necromancer, not the Necromancer, the Corpse Cart, and ends up killing it. Bad news for vampires, letting that Corpse Cart get killed there. Probably should have been more tightly blobbed around the Corpse Cart and would have helped keep the Orc Warboss on the ground. Now the Orc Warboss does charge in on the Necromancer, does a ton of damage with that charge. And there's not much here from the undead, from the vampire counts that can actually counter it. Now, a bit of a mistake from the vampires, I think, here. At this point, right, they don't have their lord. They need to blob up, keep leadership high, keep all their troops here. They do have Karen Race trying to chase units from the map, but the problem is they're going to be extremely isolated. If he brings Azag over here, or brings the rest of his units over, it's going to be huge trouble, because these Karen Race are very powerful, but if they get isolated and surrounded, they're going to get decimated here. We can see a charge from Mogreb's Mangy Marauders, who aren't even melee. melee cav doing a decent amount of damage here. And now, Orc War Boss is going to be moving over and trying to help finish off these Cairn Wraiths. Which, again, as I said, they get isolated, they get destroyed. Right? United we stand, alone we fall. And now the Cairn Wraiths are going to take a huge hit to their leadership and are going to be going down very quickly here. We see Goblin Archers firing in. Again, you got to be careful, though, in a situation like this, right? You've got your Orc War Boss, your leader, huge target because he's on a Wyvern, surrounded by small Cairn Wraiths. If your Goblin Archers are firing into the few Cairn Wraiths that are left, they might be, you know, catching the Orc War Boss in the crossfire here. Now, the other unit of Cairn Wraiths is charging in here, and smartly, EQ El Sassy J is going to pull not as a Orc War Boss out. Oh my word, I sincerely apologize. No idea why I keep calling the Orc War Boss Azag. It's probably because I'm thinking of Wyvern, and Azag has a Wyvern, but I mean the Orc War Boss can go on a Wyvern, so I don't know. Now he kind of, EQ Sassy LJ kind of just lets his Goblin Archer stand here instead of pulling him out to either side, and that ends up costing him, right? He could have sat them here or sat them over here, but instead he just sits them. He just has them sitting in the middle, and they get completely surrounded and decimated. Vampire counts finally getting grouped up here. You need to get grouped up, right? Make sure that with the units you have left, that you keep them all together. Now, big mistake here from EQ Sassy LJ. Sends his Nasty Skulkers in unsupported and alone. And what that essentially breaks down to is, you know, as I said before, united we stand, together we fall. Or not together we fall, alone we fall. Essentially, right, what he should have been doing is regrouping, right? Get your Goblin Archers over here, get your, you know, Goblin Archers over here, get your Orc War Boss over here, get your Night Goblin Shaman over here, Goblin Archers on this side, and then pull your Nasty Skulkers over here. See, because what he could have done then, right, he regroups all his troops, and then he's able to pull them all in at once, attack from multiple sides, and that way, you know, the vampire counts would not have all been able to just focus on one unit, because if he's got, what, 4 whole units left? I mean, some of them are low health, but he's got 4 units here against 1 unit of Nasty Skulkers, already on low morale, already been routed before, low morale, and if he just charges that in against all these powerful vampire counts units, they're going to get absolutely decimated, which they did. We can see Orc War Boss charging in again, but again, he's right, he's being surrounded, he's being whittled down, and the issue you're having is, right, again, over and over, I can say it, he's just charging in units one at a time, right? He sends the Night Goblin Shaman in, which is nowhere near a melee fighter, just sends him right into the blob, and then he just ends up getting decimated. Right, what he should have done, again, I reiterate, should have done, regrouped all his units, send the Orc War Boss in for a charge, send the Nasty Skulkers in from the flank, send the Goblin Archers with no arrows left in from the front, send the Savage Orcs in, send the Night Goblin Shaman in, send everyone in, and just get them caught in a collateral muckfest. And essentially that didn't end up happening because he sent all his units in one at a time and they got picked off one at a time. Now we see he's going to bring the Goblin Archers forward, but smartly he is going to pull back and try and regroup. Sadly, he should have done this earlier, but it didn't end up happening. And now, right, he's got the Cairn Wraiths heading over to the Goblin Archers. These Goblin Archers do actually have a decent amount of ammo left and are going to do quite a bit of damage. But now, right, we have Arcan the Black. He's charging his forces forward, all of them after the Goblin Archers. But because the Cairn Wraiths are faster, they're going to pull away from the group and going to get caught out by the Orc War Boss. Now, it looks like they are going to get onto the Goblin Archers, and the Goblin Archers are going to take a huge morale penalty from this charge. And you can see their leadership is going to absolutely tank here and probably going to rout from the field. Orc War Boss popping Wa, not necessarily the best cast there, right? Get around to where all the rest of your forces are and then cast Wa. Don't cast it while it's just him alone chasing after some Cairn Wraiths. Especially because Cairn Wraiths don't have very good melee defense anyway. They've only got 30, so you don't need the extra melee attack on Cairn Wraiths. Right, what you need them for is these, well, I guess they've got 36, yeah, 47. You're going to need them against the Stearnsmen here. And that might cost him later on if he ends up having to fight these Stearnsmen. Now, we do see the Goblin Archers routing from the field, taking too much damage, and they're going to be on their way out. Night Goblin Shaman, completely broken, routing. And now the Vampire Counts are mustering their last forces here to defend against the Greenskin Onslaught. Sadly, the Greenskin Onslaught It's pretty bad compared to the Vampire Count's forces they have here, right? 2 units of Goblin Archers, very low unit Savage Orcs, and again, right, same problem. I know you want to cycle charge. I know EQL or Sassy LJ wants to just keep charging in here, but the problem he's running into is that he keeps sending them in one at a time into the meat grinder, and all forces are able to concentrate on one target at a time. See, this is what you need, right? Get your troops in and then attack with the Orc Warboss from the flank at the same time. You get that rear charge. Now, what he could have done to make this even better is you have this high health unit of Goblin Archers, right? They come in from the front. You send this Goblin Archer unit, you position them on the side, then they come in from the side. You send the Savage Orcs, position them, they come in from that side, and then you send the Orc Warboss in from the flank. I know it's a lot of micro, but if you can pull that off, you'll get huge morale penalties on the Stearnsman and on the Graveguard, and they'll be crumbling quicker because they're going to be attacked from all sides, and more of these units will actually be able to fight, because if you can see, right, he's kind of caught up in a little bit of a blob here, where he's got, you know, the frontline engagement that's actually happening right there, but then he's got all these units sitting around in the back that aren't doing anything. Right now, we do see the Orc Warboss sitting around in the back line, and we're going to speed it up and see what ends up happening here. Orc Warboss taking a lot of damage. Now, what I think you should be doing with the Orc Warboss at this point, right? Pull out, charge in. Pull out, charge in. Same thing with the Glade Lord as in my Caught in the Pass video, right? You just want to pull out, charge back in, and continuously wear the enemy down with your charges. Get that charge bonus applied, because what the charge bonus does is on charge, your charge bonus is applied to your normal damage. So he's going to get 90 extra damage onto that, which is going to be huge. Now, I'd say a bit of a mistake from EQ, Sassy LJ, and from RK in the Black here. RK in the Black lets his forces get a little separated, and his Graveguard end up getting decimated. But the Orc Warboss did not need to sit here for that long, right? These Graveguard are already crumbling at extremely low health. They're going to die anyways, right? So you've already got the charge in. Get over here and help protect your Goblin Archers who are getting killed, and get it like a rear charge on these Stearnsmen. Right, you don't need to stay and finish off these units that are about to die anyway, because they are crumbling. Right, the undead, once they get to low leadership, they don't immediately die, they start to crumble. Now we have flying units alone cannot hold the ground, laying an attacker surrender this territory. Now I'd say a bit of a mistake here from EQ Sassy LJ. He just charges his Orc Warboss in and just lets him sit here. Right, he does have WA, but what you want to be doing right now, again, with the Glade Lord, right, you just want to keep cycle charging. Cycle charge, cycle charge, cycle charge. If he'd done that earlier, right, he's got time for it. He's not going to lose the battle, even though he has to land an attack. Right, if you just consistently cycle charge, you get that charge bonus, and for a lot of the time, the Stearnsman can't actually hit you. If he stays in a prolonged engagement surrounded by Stearnsmen, he's going to take way too much damage. We can see here, Wyvern ripping to shreds some skeletons. Orc Warboss trying to take off here and trying to get back into the fray. Apologize for that. And now it's going to come down to the wire here. We got the Stearnsman, we got the Orc Warboss Stearnsman. Oh, man. Excuse me, Stearnsman into wavering and are crumbling. Now, the only thing is that the crumbling is kind of outweighed from the fact that the Stearnsmen do have regeneration. This is one of the dangers I said before, right? If the Stearnsmen stay at high health, then they're going to be a huge problem because of their regeneration. They're going to be so hard to kill. And now we've got the Orc Warboss at 400 health, Stearnsman at 900. Who is going to be the victor in this scrap? But the Orc Warboss's leadership is tanking here, and it looks like he is going to rout, and that is going to be a valiant defeat for the Greenskins. Now, I will preface this by saying that the Greenskins definitely have a very tough time against the Vampire Counts. Low morale army, or a low leadership army, versus an army with lots of fear and terror spells bad news. So, very, very tough matchup, and EQ Sassy LJ definitely did well. Lots of those archers, pretty decent against Vampire Counts. The only problem, right, is vampires aren't spending money on missiles and artillery, so they're going to have a ton of melee forces, and you saw that was a huge problem for the Greenskins. He just didn't have the melee forces to hold back the tide, especially after the Black Orcs got whittled down by Fated Buna below half, and then the left flank broke like a minute in, and then his archers got destroyed pretty quick after. Problem with the Savage Orcs, obviously they do a decent amount of damage, but they have very low armor. They have 30% resistance to damage, but right? They have very low armor. They're going to get chewed through pretty dang quickly, and that is indeed what happened. Another issue from the Greenskins, not much armor piercing, right? All they really had in the front line was the Black Orcs and the 8-peak Loonies. But other than that, right, Savage Orcs not doing much armor piercing, and you have to expect Grave Guard coming in, right? Lots of decent amount of vampire armored units going to be holding that front line, and sadly, he did not have the armor piercing to bring them down. We did see plenty of mistakes in Arcane the Black side, though, right? He gets over-aggressive with Manfred von Karstein, and he ends up getting picked off and killed. Completely unnecessary. Right at the start of the battle, Mortis Engine charges in right ahead of all his troops and gets absolutely destroyed in like 10 seconds by 4 units of archers. When you see that many archers, don't charge your valuable large units in. Same thing. I think there was actually one point in the battle that I saw with the Necromancer. I don't think we got it in the footage, but with the Necromancer, he kind of got a little bit separated, and he was able to get picked off by the archers. There was 4 units of archers firing in on him, and he was separated from the rest of his group. It was just like by like 5 feet. He was off from the group, but because he wasn't in the middle of his blob, he ended up taking all the arrow fire rather than the shields of the Graveguard that would have been around him, and he ended up getting picked off. Now, another problem for the Greenskin force here was that he ended up facing 2 units of Cairn Wraiths, right? Cairn Wraiths are ethereal, not going to be taking much damage. I think it's 70% resistance to physical damage. Greenskins have very low magic damage. So the only way you can really kill Cairn Wraiths quickly is through numbers advantage. But when you're taking this many archers, this much cav, right, the issue you run into is that you don't have a numbers advantage. Right? So he ended up just... Well, yeah, you just don't have the numbers advantage, and therefore he didn't have the numbers to kill the Cairn Wraiths. Right? The thing that can kill Cairn Wraiths is A, magic damage, but because Greenskins don't have much, you need numbers. Now, why does numbers work? The reason is because ethereal units typically have very little to zero armor. So even though you're taking 70% mitigation, the 30% you are taking is going through 100%. All that weapon damage is coming right through. There's nothing to help mitigate that part of it. So if they're surrounded by tons of units, they're going to take a lot of damage because they don't have any armor to help mitigate the damage that is coming through. But because the Greenskins brought all these forces, it did end up, because they brought so much air and cavalry, they did end up paying the price for it in their very weak front line and not enough numbers to bring down the Cairn Wraiths. And especially, when you're going in, you got to expect the Stearnsman. That is a classic Vampire Counts pick, and very, very powerful, obviously, with their generation, their high melee defense, big health pool, lots of numbers, right? You got to bring those guys down early, and sadly, the Greenskins were unable to do so. They should have been focusing fire. Mogrb's Maging Marauders from the flank, the 8-peak Loonies should have been sent into them, or the Nasty Skulkers too. Nasty Skulkers, get them in on the Stearnsman, bring the Stearnsman down as fast as possible. Now, I do believe EQ Sassy LJ could have won that fight, again, if he had been cycle charging his Orc War Boss instead of letting him sit in combat for too long. He could have won. But definitely on both sides, there were things that could have been done better. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Strategical Analysis. I hope it was helpful. If you have any replays that you would like commentated over, or you would like, tips and tricks provided to you, go ahead and send them over to elivaras@gmail.com. Or you can join our Discord, which is dedicated to helping players find other players to play multiplayer battles and campaigns with. You can find that link in the description below, and you can also post replays in that channel that I can find them there. I hope you all enjoyed. If you liked it, feel free to leave a like. If you disliked it, feel free to leave a dislike. Any and all feedback is appreciated. And if you would like to continue supporting me and to help me continue to produce more content, hitting that subscribe button would be very much appreciated. So, without further ado, I would like to thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Cheers, guys.